going to talk to you guys in the next 20 minutes about orchid generalities. And I'd like to start these things with one question. Who has killed an orchid before? Alright, so we're all in the same boat. It's not a secret. We all do it. Fine, it's not a problem. When it comes to orchids, you have to understand orchids are like, I like to compare them to dogs. You have a Pekingese and you have a Great Dane. They're both dogs, but they're not the same animal. It's the same thing with orchids. And that's part of the problem, that we all think that, oh, an orchid is an orchid is an orchid, and it's not. You got different orchids, different plants, different requirements. It comes down to three variables when it comes to orchid growing. One, you have to know the type of orchid that you're working with. I don't mean for you to know the Latin name of the plant, but I need you to know that you're working with a phalaenopsis or a cattleya or a vanda or a dendrobium. It does make a difference. And the little pamphlet that I pass out, on the bottom of it, on the inside cover, on the inside of the pamphlet, there's a little illustration on different types of orchids and the light requirement. And those are general. I mean, there's a lot more of them, but it gives you a general idea of who is what and what are they compared with. Two, in addition to knowing who you're working with, you need to be aware of what conditions you put them in. It's not the same to grow an orchid indoors or outdoors, under cover, under the rain, in a hanging pot, in a hanging basket, in a clay pot, mounted on a palm. All that makes a difference. And the third variable that I tell people that nobody ever thinks about is the type of grower that you are. Are you like me, that you want to ignore your plants and you want them to take care of themselves, or you're a fuzzy woozy that wants to be on top of them every day? There's a spectrum in between, and you have to be honest with yourself. I mean, I am honest with myself, and I go, okay, I don't take care of my orchids the way I should. So I find ways to pot them, I find ways to mount them, I find ways to treat them, so they take care of themselves for the most part. And there are ways to get there. If you like to fuss on them, then you do another way. Now, when you work with plants, you have to realize that they don't change overnight. This is like a really large ship, and it takes a while for the ship to change and turn one way or another. It's a biological thing, it's a living thing. So she has to grow into the new thing that you're setting her up for. So just because you take a plant that I run into this all the time. So, oh well, they call me, listen, my plant is dying on me. It's like, first thing I ask them, what do you do? Well, I felt that she needed to be repotted, so I moved it from where it was doing fantastically well, and I put it somewhere else. And my next question is why? Because I felt like it. I thought that she needed something. It's like, do yourself a favor, take those hands, put them in your pocket, and don't do anything. If you don't know what you're doing, it's better off to take a small step at a time. Just be patient with the plant, understand what's wrong with the plant, and then act upon it. But don't assume that you think that you know just because you feel like it. It doesn't work that way. There's a few people that are very fortunate, and they have an honest green thumb, and whatever they touch grows for them. We know somebody that grows orchids, and they're constantly blooming. Seems that they're constantly blooming from them, and when we ask him, what did you do? It's like, oh, nothing. I just put her in the tree and she's doing fine. And it is true. That happens. If you happen to put the right orchid in the right conditions, you don't have to work on it. She'll be perfectly fine from then on. And she'll work for you, she'll grow, she'll be healthy also because she likes where she is. Problem comes in when we want to put a Chihuahua to run like a greyhound. It doesn't work that way. And we want this orchid to bloom inside the house, and she can't bloom inside the house because it's too cold and too dark. She needs to be out here. So you have to realize what you're asking of the plant. She might not be the one. Well, but I like the big flowers. Well, big flowers means more light. Small flowers, less light. Big leaves, less light. Smaller leaves, more light. you have to know what you're working with. And it does, when you think about it, all that I'm telling you guys, it does make sense, because it's what nature has developed after millions of years of progress. You know, they know exactly what they're doing for their conditions, and we have to understand that. So, another questions that I get all the time is, what's the best fertilizer that I use on my orchids? My answer is the one you use last. All of them will get you to Rome. All roads lead to Rome. Some will take longer than others, but all of them will do it. The best fertilizer is the one you use. We all go to shows and we buy something. We see these beautiful plants from the grower and we ask him, wow, that's so beautiful. Well, what do you do? And the grower goes, I use this. And you buy this. And then when you get home, this goes on your kitchen pantry and you forget about it. And then you forget what the grower told you about it, so you're scared of using it and damage your orchid, because you're going, well, I don't really remember, but I can't contact the person I bought it from, so I don't know what to do with it. So it doesn't matter that you have the best or the worst. If you don't use it, it doesn't do anything. So what's the best fertilizer? The one you use less, the one you're giving to your plants. They'll figure it out, they'll get around it. Now, that's not to say that we don't make life easier for them, that we don't choose things for them, but really a lot of the stuff is just whatever you have at hand. I mean, like here in the States, we're very fortunate. We have access to a lot of it, a lot of materials, a lot of components, a lot of different things that other countries don't have. I have a lot of friends that grow orchids in Jamaica, and they grow them in river rocks, because that's what they have to grow, and the orchids do fine, and they get awards on their plants. So you work with what you have. I mean, people that have coconut plantations, they grow their orchids in coconut fibers and coconut materials. People that grow in the Californian West Coast, they grow in bark, because that's what's plentifully available. If you have charcoal, you grow with charcoal. People use what's available for them. In Central America, with all the volcanoes, in Nicaragua, people use lava rock to grow their orchid. Or they use something called tree fern, which is not really readily available anymore, but it is available locally in those countries, so you use that. So that's it, the 3 variables: know who you're playing with, know where you're playing, and know who you are. The second part of the tips when it comes to orchid growing has to do with the fertilizer, where I mentioned about it a little bit. Okay, and how do you decide which is your best fertilizer? Basically, when it comes to fertilizers, they all have what they call an NPK presentation, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which are the 3. They're called macro elements because they're the most important ones. First one is nitrogen, which is for growth. Second one is phosphorus, which is for blooming. I mean, that's what the literature says. The third one is potassium, which is for root development. The way I learned it, the way I made it easy on myself to remember these things, is the 3 numbers. What they mean is leaves, flowers, roots. That way you have it, you don't have to worry about it. Any of the 3 numbers that you see out there, that's what they do. Leaves, flowers, roots. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Leaves, flowers, roots. And you work with the ratios of the comparative ratios between the numbers to do different things on your plants. I'm holding on my hands 2 fertilizers, a 15-5-15 with calcium and magnesium, which is a water soluble, and an 18-6-8, which is a control release fertilizer, also known as slow release, just like the other brands out there. This is called NutraCode. Then we also have a 10-30-20, which the literature calls a bloom booster, and we have your traditional 20-20-20. Now, one of the things that you pay attention to when you're doing fertilizers is you look at the guaranteed analysis, not on these ones, but when you buy a fertilizer from a store or from a distributor, you'll see that the product has what they call a guaranteed analysis that tells you how the macro elements were made and what they're also adding to the fertilizer, as far as trace elements, minerals, and what have you. An important thing when it comes to orchids is an inexpensive source of the first number, the nitrogen, is urea. You get nitrogen you get nitrogen in a fertilizer from three sources: urea, nitrates, and ammonia nitrates. Those are the three sources of nitrogen, the first number. Our problem when it comes to orchid feeding is that orchids do not see urea. So your 20-20-20 that the literature talks about, an orchid actually sees a 10-20-20. Because that half of that 20 is urea, is derived from urea, and an orchid will not see that until it becomes processed by bacteria and it becomes nitrates, and then it can be assimilated by the orchid. But by that time, it takes time to do that. By the time that happens, that fertilizer is on the ground. It went through the plant and it's on the ground, so it doesn't do you any good. So you look at the guaranteed analysis for that regard. Also, you pay attention to the trace elements, such as calcium, magnesium, molybdenum, zinc, iron. All those things do make a difference when it comes to orchid cultivation. The more trace elements you have in the fertilizer, the better the fertilizer will, the more complete feeding you will provide to your plant. But again, use the one that you have at home. It's better. I'd rather you use something and you were disciplined and you use it consistently than just going and buying the new thing and just not doing it at all. So whatever you have, use it. It will get there. The plants are smarter than we are, and they'll figure it out. So in addition to fertilizing, the next thing you do is to control bugs. In Florida, we're buggy and we're full of debris and all sort of nasty things in the air. The rainy season is normally a fungi season. A dry season is normally an insect season. So this year has been particularly dry, and we have been having a lot of problems with thrips and mites on our orchids, well, on all the plants really. And so you need insecticides. You have, when it comes to chemicals, you have systemic and you have topical. Systemic is like an antibiotic. It's absorbed by the system, and it works from within. It's a slower acting, but it doesn't wash away when you water the plant. Topicals stay on the surface. They act on the pathogen immediately or on the insect on contact, but as soon as you start to water, it washes off. So you have different choices. When it comes to insecticides, the industry go-to is orthine, which is the active ingredient is acephate. This is a systemic insecticide. It's fantastic when it comes to thrips, when it comes to scale. It doesn't cover mites. That's one thing that you need a specific insecticide, but it's what the industry goes to. One that we found that works very nicely, and it's not a systemic, but it gives you a 7-day residual effect, is called permetrol. This is a topical insecticide, but it does cover, is a much broader spectrum of coverage than the orthine does. So it covers a lot of things, but you have the problem that it only lasts 7 days on your plant. Then if you want to go the organic way, you want to go the natural way, you can go with something like insecticidal soap. And when you say insecticidal soap, you can also talk about neem oil, you can also talk about alcohol, you can also talk about pyrethrins. All those things that are organic, they are effective, but you need to spray about every 48 hours. Because the problem is that you will decimate the adult population on contact, but whatever you didn't hit will still be there, and the eggs will hatch and continue the population. So basically you do it every 48 hours, so you decimate the adult population and you finally kill them. And that's one of the choices. When you talk organics, you can also use rubbing alcohol, isopropyl, 75%. Sometimes you can use it in full strength. I like to cut it in half with water, and that's your organic insecticide. But again, same thing, you have to do it every 48 hours. Something new that we have just started carrying this about a month ago is Conserve Naturalis. It's, the active ingredient in this is spinosad, and even though it's botanical, it's organic, it's super effective on thrips, on scale, on mites. It's fantastically effective. Naturalite, Conserve Naturalite. The active ingredient is spinosad, and I can't talk enough about this. I mean, it's like one of the advantages is completely organic, so you don't have to worry about all the other effects of stronger chemicals. Is highly effective. Use it is two ounces per gallon of water, and you repeat it about 10 days later, and that should be the end of those problems. I mean, I cannot recommend it enough. We're very, very impressed with this one. When it comes to fungicides, it's the same idea. Now, just this morning here at the Miami Beach Conservatory, we had rain this morning. So hopefully we're starting to get into a rainy season. So rain eliminates the insects, but now we start dealing with fungi. So to prevent that, and it's the same thing, you have systemic fungicides and you have topical fungicides. One of the systemics that is very popular is thiomyl. Thiomyl is the same thing as T-methyl, which is a systemic fungicide. It's also the same active ingredient that you find in Clearis 3336, same thing. Then we have, this is a garden-friendly fungicide. This is a bacillum, which is another name for a bacteria. But this is a beneficial bacteria that smears and covers and kills fungi on plants. It's organic also. Another systemic is daconil. And this will recommend, if anybody grows vandas, you get a problem with vandas that they drop the bottom leaves. That's something that's caused by a disease called, we call it tie crud. That's the basic name for it. Tie crud, it's basically, I call it vanda herpes, because it manifests when the plant goes under stress. It doesn't go away, it doesn't kill the plant, it just makes the plant lose the bottom leaves, so you end up with what looks like a palm, just a stalk and leaves on the top, and it continues to progress that way. And as the plant continues to grow, it continues to drop the bottom leaves. Once the plant gets that, there is no going back. I mean, the plant is infected with it, and she will manifest it when she's under stress. The way to prevent that is you apply the systemic T-methyl thiomyl fungicide about every 15 days. And that will keep that issue under control, and the plant will grow beautifully for you. But you have to spray regularly. And then, of course, the last one on the fungicides is Phison 20. Phison 20 is a bactericide, fungicide, and algicide, and it really covers just about everything. I cannot recommend it enough. This keeps things clean in your greenhouse. It's a tablespoon per gallon of water, and you fumigate all your plants with it. And basically, what happens too is that insects and fungi, they have developed their tactics to take, they're opportunistic entities, and they take advantage of opportunities. You have your plant, and an insect comes in, takes a bite out of the plant, and it leaves an exposed tissue. So what happens is that fungi spore that is floated in the air lands on that exposed tissue, and now you have a 1-2 punch. You have the insect, and you have the pathogen came in, colonized, and started to do the treat of just basically rotting the plant away. And guess what happens when you have something rotting? It attracts more insects. So more insects come in, attack the plant, more opportunities for any pathogens to come in and colonize that tissue. So it's a daisy chain of problems. And interestingly enough, Phison 20 takes care of that. It cleans the plant of that initial incentive for the bug to come in, because it cleans any debris, it cleans anything from the plant. So it takes away that initial incentive for the insect to come in and damage the plant. So those are my chemicals I want to talk to you guys about. Now let's talk about problems, because you learn more from problems than from text. This is sunburn. This is what sunburn looks like. Yesterday, the leaf looked just like this. That happened within a couple of days. And I made a mistake. I was getting a presentation at our farm, and I left this on the top of the table, and the 3 afternoon sun came in and it cooked it. If you notice, it's only the top leaf that, you see the pattern right there? You see the straight edge on the leaf? That's typical of sunburn. And this, I'll lose that leaf and I'll lose that leaf. What people do when you're growing is basically you cut down like this, and you apply cinnamon to the exposed tissue, like cauterize it and seals it. Or you can apply cinnamon to that, but basically the plant is burned. It's not sunburn, it's not tan, no, it's burned, it's cooked, it's gone. And,
Carlos, I use Neosporum as well.
huh?
I use Neosporum.
Neosporum, okay.
I'm using that for
As a cauterizer, as a
Yeah.
bactericide, you put it on the wounds.
I have a leaf that has broken in the center, and like it broke like that. I
Yes.
put Neosporum there, and it's growing. It's been like that for years.
So, but it continues to, it didn't heal back, it just,
It didn't heal back. It just has a line, has the
Okay.
line where it broke, but it's still green on both sides.
it's
And
green on
it's,
both sides, it's healthy, okay, you stop it, you allow the plant to grow new tissue,
Yeah.
seal the thing, and it just continues your,
Exactly.
it didn't go back. The Neosporin is a bactericide. It's a lotion, and it has
Yeah.
lubricants on it and emulsifiers.
it
So
looks
it's
it
perfect.
looks funny at first, but
Thanks for that. Great, thank you. All right. Talk about a sunburn. So I was seeing a presentation on my place last week, and I was talking about planting. Something I'm going to show you guys. This is a regular dendrobium, and whenever you grow new things, whenever you repot, remember I was saying you wait until you're ready, the plant is ready for you. This plant, it's ready. You see what I'm pointing at here?
a new growth.
That's a new growth. No, that's not a kiki. That's a new growth. That's part of the old plant. A kiki on a dendrobium will be up here. But that's a continuation of the plant. But that's when you repot it, when the plant is actively growing. That's when you go in and you say, okay, I'm gonna mess with you, because it's like an athlete. You know, when the person is active and then the metabolism is fast going, you can shoot them, nothing's gonna happen to them. You know, the other one's the same thing. You mess with the plant when the plant is actively growing. So we have our little dendrobium.
Oh wow! It's
And I do apologize, I didn't bring a little tray to put this together. But basically you will remove the old media and you'll use some of the new media. And when you put something, dendrobiums and cattleyas, they grow this way. They don't grow that way, they grow this way. So that's the new part, that's the old part. So you put the old part against the inside edge of the pot, like this.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And ideally, you will have removed all the old media and put in and have it completely bare root, but I'm not going to do that for presentation purposes. Basically, you fill the void. You fill the void, you put the old part of the plant against the inside edge, and you put the new part. So now she has all this room to grow into. And this is called a rhizome clip. Okay? What this does is a seat belt, and it anchors the plant in place. Because this plant is kind of wobbly right now. And you don't really want to bury the plant into the media. You want your rhizome, which is the fat root where the pseudobulbs or the canes come from, and the roots start from here. You want that to be about that on the mix. You don't want it to be buried. You want it to be just about a little bit above it. The problem with that is that you don't have support for the plant, so the plant is wobbly, and they don't like that either. So that's where the rhizome clip comes in. And basically, you find a spot to present it, and you push it down on the pot. The little arch will fit under the rim, and it will anchor the plant in place. And that fixes all the problems of the plant being wobbly and everything else. And it's very, very easy once you know how to use it, or once you know what's for. Another nice way to do things is on a cedar board or cork. On cork, I like to do this with them. Take one of the eye screws. Put it in the back. Because most people, what they do is what I did with the wood here. Just drill a hole in the top and put an S hook, and that's it. You're done. With wood, I don't have much of a problem with that. But with cork, it tends to give away. Or different types of wood will tend to get brittle with time. And if you have something with only this much of space to hold in the whole thing, it tends to break. So what I like to do is I present the little S hook. I take a regular S hook, put it through, swing it down, and I turn it. Of course, this is just a little bit. So now my hook, it's down at the bottom here and is holding the whole thing together just by this. So now instead of having this much of the surface holding the weight of the whole thing, I have the whole piece held by the whole unit. So it's a little bit stronger. And then on something like this, you can take this little oncidium here, which also grows that way. Not only oncidium, that's the new growth. That's the old part of the oncidium. When you mount things on trees, when you mount things on boards, when you mount things on things, what you take is you take the part that is growing and you put it against the surface that you're mounting on. Don't do it this way, because what will happen if you do that is the plant will grow out like that. What you want is you want the plant to find the board. So she continues, she puts out new growth, and she'll continue to grow this way. And basically, you can take something like this, or twist ties, which I brought also, and the screwdriver.
Oh, wow.
A couple of holes. Take a zip tie, put it through, now you're looking like that. And you're done. Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Very, very easy. You can do the same thing with a tree from plaque. You can do the same thing with a cypress thing. And if you want to be fancy, you can take some of the green moss and use some of this to line under the plant to give it a little bit extra humidity. And you can take some of the slow release fertilizer, put in a little plastic container, put it in between the cord. You will put it right there, right by the new growth. So the new growth is what gets fed. Basically what you want, right there. And that's it. I mean, I cover everything that I want to tell you about.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for that amazing